Kerbal Space Program 2 review, something to look forward to. It seems to me that Kerbal Space Program 2 needs no introduction. The sequel is still the same rocket designer with the ability to fly, land on celestial bodies, extract resources, explore asteroid clusters and do similar space activities. Star Theory Games has taken care to create a step-by-step guide to designing, launching and controlling a rocket in zero gravity. Unfortunately, new test engineers will only be able to learn the basics from it. Most of the nuances will have to be learned through trial and error and at the cost of the lives of brave Kerbal spacemen. The simplest rocket in Kerbal Space Program 2 is assembled from literally 4 modules. Here we will immediately make a clarification: players will not have to buy or open new elements, everything is available in the sandbox at once. Know for yourself design. To create a workable aircraft, it will be enough to look into the vertical assembly shop, select the combat module where the astronaut or whole team of those will be located, then, for obvious reasons, install the fuel tank. The modules are connected by simply dragging an element from the list to the vehicle under construction with the mouse. An engine is docked to the tank. 4 types of those are presented in the game: orbital, deep space engines, merging and launch vehicles. The last 2 options are necessary to overcome the atmosphere and take off from the surface of cabin. The fourth optional but useful element is the parachute module, which is necessary for the pilot to land upon returning to the surface on the planet. Despite the task assigned to the astronauts up to exploring the corners of the system, sooner or later they will have to return, since the supplies of priors are not endless, if, of course, there are astronauts in the cabin at all. It is noteworthy that during the assembly process, the player can save separately assembled elements to a special section of the constructor, so that later they do not assemble everything again, but use ready-made solutions for future ships. The launch of the aircraft is carried out from the launch pad, a separate location where players move their offspring after completing the assembly stage. The takeoff can be controlled by subtle correction the course for the sake of maneuvering into the orbit. In addition, the player must ensure that the stages that have worked out are reset in a timely manner so as not to weigh down the apparatus that is gaining altitude. There can be several steps, as you probably guess. Separators must be installed between them and the reset algorithm is manually configured. The bar full of details, to which I personally had complaints, is responsible for monitoring the ship's system. It cannot be called overloaded. It is also uninformative. There is an altimeter. There is a convenient nesisphere. There is a convenient navisphere. Auxiliary functions for navigation. Detailed data on the amount of resources of the ship. However, externally the interface is some show dull and somewhat does not correspond to in the present visual style of the game itself, as it lags behind it. Ground vehicles can also be built in Kerbal Space Program 2. To do this, the MCC provides a variety of chassis, specific cabins, common seats, body elements. Graphically, Kerbal Space Program 2 is an order of magnitude better than its predecessor, with significantly better lighting, textures and environmental details. Space landscapes are nice to admire. This coin also has a downside. The game is extremely demanding on the hardware. In my opinion, it is unreasonably demanding. Frankly, for a first person who is rather superficially familiar with the first part of the Kerbal Space Program, the sequel doesn't seem like an impressive leap forward. This is another rather specific construction simulator, albeit much more beautiful, with a large number of buildings, tools and modest number of new mechanics. Meanwhile, Kerbal Space Program 2 has extremely tangible optimization problems and, according to fellow old-timers, the game needs seriously environment due to the lack of in important mechanics, and Star Theory Games partners are released very rarely. Perhaps after some time the sequel will be able to surpass the first part. The prospects, if you look at the roadmap, the game definitely has. It remains to be patient.